Hey guys, how's it going? This is Sebastian, coordinator of Mentoring Arts Programming with Wayside. I'm excited to be back with you guys again. Today is Monday, I believe. And I wanted to get back together with you guys to do some stuff pretty specific to our season, which is some custom pumpkin making. I think it's going to be kind of fun. All we're going to do is folks' names, and it should be pretty painless, should be pretty quick, you know what I mean? And I think it's going to be some fun. So we're going to do a few. I think we're doing maybe 4, and we'll see how it goes. We are... my switcher is behind me today, so it's a little bit harder for me than usual. But it'll make sense once we get over there. All right. So we are going to work on a custom pumpkin stencil. I'm going to create it in Photoshop, prepare it and stuff like that, send it to Silhouette Studio, cut it, and then we'll pull the stencil, bring the pumpkin in and spray it. Anybody could do this if you wanted to. If you don't have Photoshop, you could just draw the letters. If you don't have the cutter, you could cut it with a razor. If you don't have the airbrush, you could use a spray can. This stuff is really pretty easy. And it's really cool. You know, like a couple years back, I did a pumpkin, like a custom pumpkin event where people just line up and you knock them out. We were able to do quite a few. You know, for that one, we just make alphabets, and whatever folks want, we choose a font, and kind of go from there. And this one is kind of similar in how we set them up and stuff like that. We're just using different fonts for each of the names, and it's a couple of choices about how we lay it out, and there's a process to it. So we're going to go through today and work on that. I feel like I've been doing a lot of airbrushing with you guys lately, or stencil making. If it's boring, I have many other videos. Just kidding, guys. So anyway, we're gonna kind of get right into it. I'm excited you guys could join me. That my program is Greenhouse Graphics. That's where we are right now. Again, my name is Sebastian. I'm a mentoring artist with Wayside, which means I basically do art projects with young adults as a way of sort of apprenticing them to me as opposed to being their art teacher. Unfortunately, the pandemic has gotten me away from physical young adults into this virtual version. This one is called Virtual TAG. That's the art group. This is the program I would normally have on the road Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays in my regular schedule. Wednesdays and Fridays I'm on Facebook instead of YouTube here, and those are the days that we'd be running an open studio program at my basement studio in Tempo Young Adult Resource Center. Wayside's a human service agency out of Framingham, and Tempo is one of their programs. Tempo is a young adult resource center, as I said, that's doing some really great work for young adults and support and crisis management and life skills and whatever they need, honestly. They work with young adults from 16 to 26. These are the same ages I work with in person. Here, these videos are open to anyone. But this is a great place, and we run an open studio program in our basement studio there. I built this studio about almost 8 years ago when I started working with Wayside. We've set it up to have everything you'd possibly need in the way of art creation media. So when we get back to it, if y'all 16 to 26 and you're interested, please come by 68 Henry Street. Or give us a call. Here on our in the channel is contact information. If you go to Facebook, our contact information is also there. So we're going to get right into this thing. First thing I want to warn you is my switcher is behind me, as I said earlier, so I might have to switch back and forth a little. I'm sorry if you guys have to see the back of my bald head. But let's just get right into it, okay? Hey guys. All right, so now we are in excuse me for having my own video down here in the corner. Just keeps me from screwing it up. right, guys, sorry about that. So we are in Photoshop 2020 here, and this is a piece I was just working on for the sake of creating a stencil. This kind of went, pretty good. Like we had a pretty good time. So I'm going to walk you guys through how I did this. Really straightforward and simple. We'll just do it again. So this is the open dialog box in Photoshop. In here we want to work landscape. So that'll instantly drop it into this letter coordinates to over there. When it comes to print, you'd want to use CMYK color. I'm not printing anything except honestly blank paper. So it doesn't really matter for us here. That would matter if you were doing something for print. So we just say create, right? We jump up here to our text. So you hit T, right? And Castle Dracula was something I was just using recently. Let's see, what did we choose for the Sebastian one? Maybe it was this one. We'll try that one. Doesn't really matter, just showing you guys. So I went up to about 100 in text size, and you can see there that's even not enough, So then we try like 250, 254. Oh. We're going to get it over here, see if this works. We want to switch our colors. Once you've turned on the colors, you can't use this keyboard shortcut. Alright, so now we want to write. Oh, Alright. Didn't need that L. Oh, we got a bunch of silly junk in here that we do not need. Let's try starting over. So a very cool thing is being able to move our text and stuff in Photoshop. I love that, I remember, not so long ago, I guess, when I got out of school, we still had to use an overhead camera to move text. So this is like a cakewalk, you know what I mean? So what I'm doing here is lowering the size of my text a little at a time. Whoops. As opposed to simply transforming it. Now the reason for that would be once you transform it, you're sort of like changing the the fact that it's letters and turning it into images. We need letters here for a minute, right? So with the text tool, I'm going to put a space there, skip the E, space there. Skip the B, space there, skip the A, space there, skip the S, space there, and then enter. Might want to move that whole deal over a little, but right now they're still text, right? So we can still move them as one, as opposed to a whole bunch of individual letters, right? So then we literally just step off and bring these guys over, right? And then you have to hit this guy. And that engages our text, right? So now we can do select all, use V, that's the move tool, turns on all of this stuff. This will put it right in the center. And then you can go down the side and say, I want it in the center and I want it centered on the board. So that's pretty good, right? That's what we want to do with that. So now real quick, we want to think about moving some letters a little bit further apart because now we can, you know what I mean? So I think we go back in here with the text tool, right? And we could say, move them one more. enter. Let's try this. Do. Really wanted backspace. All right, so now we can go behind this guy, right? And we can put another space, another space, another space. Oops, doesn't really matter. Another space and then enter. All right, and we should have plenty there. So same deal. Now we engage our text. Deselect. V for our move tool, and we just bring all these guys up a little so that we can see our N. Right, a little bit. There we go. Now, why? Why do we do it this way? Like why do we want them broken up this way? It's a very simple answer, which is that we only got one space in there still. Is that we need a little bit of room to put boxes around the letters, so that we can hold them, right? So while you're working on a pumpkin, which I have one here, so when we're working on a pumpkin, right, it is a rounded object, right? It goes like this and like this. If you make a stencil with the word Sebastian on it, you'd have to wrap it all the way around this pumpkin and keep it flat this way and this way, keeping in mind that that's a piece of plastic that's intended to be flat. This is possible, but is a relatively challenging task. It is much, much easier to cut out each letter and pull off one letter at a time. It's easier to control. You're not holding on to as much of a stencil. There's not as many rules to cover, So that is the way, that's the way that you should do these letters, or that these letters should be done. So if you're cutting them yourself at home, and I'm not sure how you're doing it. I think when I did it back in the day, I basically cut out newspaper letters, traced them, put my paper on the TV, and then cut out the second piece, depending on what you're cutting your stencil out of. So for this one, we're going to give them some space. We're basically going to make them each a little card that we can use to hold separate from the rest of the stuff, but we do need them to be as big as possible. That's why these have this size, and we do need them to be individually laid out. We have to have squares around them because the cutter won't understand what we want to cut unless we place these squares around them. Very simple in Photoshop to do that. We use M, which is the marquee tool, M on the keyboard, and then you just drag a square around your letter that gives room for the next one. Then you right click, or in my case it is 2-finger click. Oh, forgot one step. Deselect. We got to go in here to this layer, our text layer. Now we don't need it to be text anymore. So you want to use rasterized type. All right. So now we go back to our marquee tool, marquee select tool, easy for me to say, like that. And down here it says stroke. You want to hit stroke. I'm going to go with 4 this time. And then it's just your idea if you would like the outline to be on the inside or the outside. Stroke is one of the coolest and most powerful things I found in Photoshop for my personal artwork, because I'm forever trying to get the edge darker. And here's a way to just create a border around whatever you're working on. Right, I'll show you. So we say 4, we're going with black, and we say yeah. Right, so now we go back to our marquee select tool, right, and we go over here and we do pretty much the same thing. Now when we select this one, you see that this one already has a black square around it, right? And that's obviously, that's obviously so that, because we did that stroke, right? So same deal, and luckily it'll remember our stroke, so we don't even really have to do anything. And you basically just keep going across like this, making these boxes, trying to make sure it's where you want. The arrow tool, the arrow keys on your keyboard will do that. I super love that. That's a great option. Too many programs don't engage that. Photoshop being the grandfather of awesome graphics programs, I'm not really surprised that they've nailed it. So same deal here, real quick, we say stroke, enter, and you just keep doing it, right? So we just kind of go over here, You know, one thing I was just thinking of is we really don't need two S's. Because we don't. So then we could go here, grab the move tool, and move this guy right up there. And then we could save a little plastic. What we're cutting out of is overhead projector transparency film. I found this at a flea market, so it was free. And it's been super good to me. I've got to have made 50 stencils out of it already. It's 50 sheets, but I use them kind of over and over. You know, I like every piece of it. Right now I have a whole bunch of tiny shards and stuff, whatever you want to call it. Let's try to do it right where this other one is. That, and then boom. Stroke, enter. Oh, that was actually a little bigger. Probably come down a little. There we go. So same deal, you know, you just want to give yourself enough room that overspray isn't going to be like a huge, huge problem, you know. It absolutely is a big problem. So, in fact, I would actually say that it's the biggest problem in airbrushing. You know, I love airbrushing, but this is the thing that makes it hard, is the fact that it wants to go everywhere. It wants to cover an entire surface. In fact, one of the best examples is where we're going to spray today. I have some masking up so that it doesn't spray on my artwork, which is on the wall behind it. You know, this is how it goes. All right. There we go. Same deal. There we go. Last one. All right. Stroke. Enter. And there we go. Command D is deselect. So there we are. We have made our stencil, and we'll have something like a couple inches down here. Let's see. Let's say show rulers, right? Oh. Sometimes don't want that. We want inches. All right, there we go. So if you're looking down here, another great thing is using the rulers in Photoshop. Wherever you put your cursor, it follows you on the ruler. So this is 8.5 by 11. Here, what we're looking at, our whole piece of artwork is 8.5 by 11 right now, our workspace. And so looking at it, we have something like 2.5 inches by 11. So that's a pretty good sized piece of plastic we'll be able to save. You know, I'm pretty excited about that. The only other thing I could think of is that we could move this one in a little. Oh. Got to make sure you grab that move tool before you try to move things. Right? So one of the things the cutter really likes is not getting too close to the edge. Right? So this guy we could bring down a little. Right. In fact, we could go back to our marquee select tool, grab all of these guys at one time, switch to V on our keyboard, and just use the down arrow so that they're all kind of in the same spot. All right. And there we go. All right, so then we could Command D deselect. So this is pretty much set up to go to the cutter. So now we say Command save. We're going to save it on my machine for the sake of. Actually, let's try it the other way. Let's say Command Shift Save of my cloud documents. You see, here's another one I've done already. We'll call this one Sebastian Stencil 2, right? Enter. Okay, and so now we want to go over here to the cutter program, and you see I already have that one laid out. But we're going to bring in a new one. All right. Trying to remember where I put that thing. How do you get into these other... So that happens sometimes. So we'll just go back in here, save onto my machine. We'll put it in the Halloween stencils folder because that's really pretty much where it wants to go. All right. You can all, so I save that as a Photoshop document, a PSD, but you can of course save it as a JPEG. And the cutter program kind of splits the difference between those two things. So we just go here and say cancel, then Command O, which is open. Grab the Sebastian stencil that we just made. Just back up a little, right? Oh, we gotta go. So over here is the controls for Silhouette Studio. If you go in here and say page setup, these are panels. Each of these would be considered like a flyout menu. Page setup is this menu here. Let's try to make this whole thing a little bigger. All right. So right here, we have this flipped. We want to go like that, and now it's the correct orientation. And then we can basically, you can take a look in here, see if there's anything else you want to use, and there shouldn't be. But there's a bunch of options, you know what I mean, that you might want to use. So, take a look in here and see what looks good to you. If there's anything you feel like changing. The only thing I've changed in here was basically the sizes, and, I think that's probably it. I've used the print border, but very rarely. So in any case, we could just close this guy up, or even this arrow shortens him up a little, collapses it. So you can kind of stack panels there. In fact, another panel that I always like to use is this one, which is the trace panel. You can fold that guy up too. Oh, I guess you can't stack them because it just closed the other one when I opened that one. Oh no, there we go. I must have hit the wrong button. Everybody. Oh, that's cool. I like that. So then we can keep those right there. And so now what we want to do is we want to go in here and take a look at this. This entire image that we brought in is one piece. That kind of helps, when you're trying to fit something into a small area. Once we get it closer here, we can hit this key here, which looks like a target, and it'll basically zoom in on our workspace. Or artboard. Some people like to call it artboard. I think that sounds really cool and artistic. Maybe I'll call it artboard too. There you go. And of course that's what they call the surface you're working on in Illustrator. So see that? So we can even bring that up a little bit more so that there's a little bit of space on our edge border there, but not too much, because one of the problems I've run into is that if you get too close to the edge with the cutter, it peels the plastic off or causes some resistance to the blade. I've recently upgraded from a Silhouette Cameo Series 1 to a Silhouette Cameo Series 4. It's a tremendous machine, dramatically cooler, and literally everything, everything that I wanted it to be. The other one, died on you sometimes, had some issues here and there, but was a relatively cool machine. This one has been rock solid, doing exactly what I wanted to do. I've been really excited about it. Cool, so once we got this in here and we're laid out kind of the way we want it to go, you're going to go in here and grab Trace, which is the second panel we opened. You grab Select Trace Area, drag and select everything that you want. Make sure you're covering the whole deal, and it's going to pop up like this. This is what it's going to trace. Now if you take a look, a couple of our edge lines are a little dark. So what's yellow is what we want to cut here. So if we go in here and bring stuff up a little bit, you see some of the lines start to pop in. Now the only problem is if you go up too high, like if you grab that slider and slide it all the way to one side, what you wind up with is spots and speckles and dust. And sometimes that kind of sucks. You got to pick somewhere between those two. It does look like 100 is where we're going to go. So then down here some options: trace, trace outer edge, trace and detach. I'm pretty sure trace and detach means that it puts the actual artwork on the side, leaves the trace, which is what I do. But I'm going to go ahead and just say trace. Once you've traced it, you want to grab the letters themselves. Now see what we got there? Is this going to double cut the letters of those? So we don't want that. Let's do undo, undo, puts it back. Undo gives us this trace. Now I want to go down here. Let's try. I think it was 46 when we started. All right, and say enter. Trace. Let's try again. All of our edges are there, but they're one cut as opposed to two. You never really, you want to, obviously, for obvious reasons, cut as little as possible, right? Because we don't want to use up our blade, our cutting materials, any number of other things. So it's pretty cool. So what it's going to do, it's going to cut these letters out for us. Now, does anybody see a big problem? I see one. That's going to set us back all the way back to Photoshop. Let's jump back over to Photoshop and take a look at what I did wrong, right? So how are the middle of the B and the middle of the A's going to stay? And actually, even before we do that, we don't need to cut two A's, We totally don't. So we can go ahead and get rid of that A totally. Second thing we want to do is we can do one of two things. You can use the eraser because our background is white. So we could just go, right here, click, and then move over here and hold the shift tool. And now we've just opened up that part of the B and that part, and that's going to be fine, right? And not hard to fix, like an easy airbrush fix. Same here. For A's, I like to go right along the cross so that we get like a real clean repair, when we have to do it. So once we've done that, we just say save, save as. Go ahead and save over that one. Save replace. Okay. Save one more time. Well, I guess we will have to call that 3 because we did change it, right? All right. So now we're going to jump back into Silhouette. We're going to delete this. We're going to delete this, and we're going to open this. All right. So the stencil that we just saved, this one. I'm going to go ahead and open that guy up. And then the same thing, you just hit minus, minus, minus. I wonder if the keyboard shortcut for that works. Hey, look at that. So once you get here, you click on it. And we're going to drag it up into our area. Whoops. Make sure you get the double arrow and not the single. So then you just hit this guy. Brings us right in here. So now we're going to put this up here as much as we can and take a look at it. And it looks good. It looks pretty good. But we're not going to save much plastic. So I'm thinking that maybe, actually I don't think we could do that in here. That'd be another Photoshop thing. So we're not going to worry about it right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our friend Trace, not to be confused with Chase. We grab the whole deal, right? We say Trace. And we can close up our Trace panel. We can drag this guy away. And there we have a captive B, an A, everybody working the way we want. And then we would send it to the cutter. The pop-up menu for that is here. This is showing you what it's going to cut, right? And, we got to turn on the machine. Hold on just one second. All right. Now it's checking the connection. Whoop. Oh no, Silhouette crashed on us. That doesn't happen very often with that particular program. Oh wow, it's not even in there. Launch Silhouette Studio. Gotta love Siri. All right. There we go. We can just go in here and see this one. Most of the rest of the stuff I feel like I already did, so we don't really need to save it. Let's see. Yeah. Yep, I don't think so. Alright, so we can just say discard all. Alright, so now we got this, and when we close up this panel and go to send, right, this is what it's going to cut, like we were just saying. And there's a few options in here of things that we can change. This is the material. There's an awesome amount of material that you can cut in with the silhouette. You know, really, really cool and different stuff. I've been liking working with it quite a bit. It is, you know, totally designed for craft applications, but you use it for whatever you want to use it for, right? Like I use it for cutting stencils, does a heck of a job. I'm having a great time with it. The only thing that I like to change in here is I want this just to be one. I think it's very important not to go two passes on any of the cutting because I feel like it tears up the paper, tears up our stencil material, our transparency. Sometimes I kind of go through and do a test to see if like how low we can run the setting and have it still cut. I've already run that setting here and set up this stuff, which is acetate sheets. This is like my user-defined material. It comes with some really close ones, but a little bit different is this one. So that's all we have to do there, and then we would hit send and it would cut it. And now to save the time, it takes 3 or 4 minutes to go through the cutting process. I've already cut the Sebastian stencil, and it's on the desk behind me. So if you just give me 1 second to turn around, we will go to that. Okay? So just 1 sec. One sec. One sec, guys. Oh, come on now. Oh, awesome. Having a little trouble. Almost there, guys. Uh-oh. Okay. Can't play that to you guys because we're not allowed. 1 sec, guys. Tech problems. Story of my life. Oh, not connected. try something else. We call this punt. So we won't even turn on. Yikes. Oh man. Can't get a break here. Almost there, guys. Oh. There we go. Hopefully that works. Oh man. Sorry, you guys. Alright guys, totally sorry about that. I am back with you. And we are together again. Sorry, man. That tech, tech. Sometimes you just can't get a break. So I know the light is a little weird over here and kind of ghostly. This is my light table with the stencil on it. There is honestly not much that I can do to help you guys see it. I keep trying to put different stuff under there. You just can't see it. My idea is from now on I'm going to spray all of my plastic before I cut it, or I'm going to try to find some colored transparency films. Seems like a simple thing, but this thickness I had a hard time finding it. So in any case, this is what we're going to do. Here is the stencil. You can kind of see the cutout over here, but I did just the same thing that we did over there, and set this one up, ran it through the cutter, and now here it is. Got some stuff stuck in my blade here. Tools we're going to use are these, which is a stencil puller. It's a vinyl puller, which is basically just a tack jammed in the other end of a dowel. This is a paper spatula. Helps to get underneath a moving stencil to keep it from sticking. One of the hardest parts of pulling stencils is the fact that it's stuck in a whole bunch of different places. And then there's the X-Acto, or in this case a Fiskars, and that's in case the cutter missed a spot and it gets stuck or something like that. So that is the deal with that. All right. So I usually start on an edge. If you can see an obvious edge, you can get the stencil puller under there. Now, because we cut out all these squares, the first thing that should come out kind of easily is everything but the squares, right? And so you see that we're getting, you know, basically a kind of a comic strip grid out of there. So this we won't be able to use for anything else. You know, this is junk. So I try to use as much stuff as I can, but sometimes there's just, you know, you just can't use it. Oh, it's sick. All right. So now that we got those out, now we're going to start with each individual letter, right? So some of the letters are going to be easier than others, right? Like this is an N. N's are not a lot going on trouble-wise inside. Usually pretty straightforward to cut. Now I just said that, so it'll totally not work. Just kidding. There we go. Now the stencil cutter, I mean the silhouette, you know, oftentimes there's tiny spots that just didn't cut enough, or something, you know, like I did something wrong. Now see, you guys can see right here, maybe, I don't know, something bright under it. You can't see it any better. Anyway, this is the N. I keep the positive and the negatives together because it gives you some flexibility. You know, if you are doing all negatives, you know, you're spraying the base ones, you can then go back with the inside ones and give it like a white halo or something. In the event I do that, I usually use repositioning spray mount, and that works really, really well. You have to be careful with that because sometimes it'll stick to your surface and leave like a residue, and you don't want to have that. Now this A wound up being in 2 separate pieces, so might not be as useful as the N. All right, so then we go up here. This is our I. Oh, a little chunk on the edge. Wonder if that's because we ran out of stencil right there. Yep. That's okay as long as it works. So we got the negative and the positive. Then we move over again. This time it's the letter T. See, most of the time, one of the reasons it's sticky is when you grab it to pull it off, it separates out the piece you've cut, the stencil. Pretty awesome, right? So we got the positive, the negative T, and here's the positive T. Now we're up to the pivotal letter. Oh man, I cut 2 S's. I was just saying a few minutes ago, right, that we don't need to cut letters twice. And I still went ahead and cut 2 S's, so very silly. In fact, I think I cut, my name has 2 S's in it, so that's a thing. Oh, 2 S's and 2 A's. I'm really on top of things. Really like that A a lot better because I remembered to hold on to the middle. So I'm going to leave that A on the side. Here's a B that I also didn't remember to do. I might actually have to cut that B again because I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything with it since it cut out the whole edge. So we're going to have to go back and knock this B out again. Yeah, I think, because I don't think I'm going to be able to use that. And then our E. E, positive E, and our second S. S is probably the easiest letter to pull out because it's all round. All right, so there we go. So now we just have to grab a small piece of plastic, which I believe I had an extra laying around. Select that. Oh, there we go. This is another sticky board that I have. This one's just a little bit newer. Just going to put this piece over here in the corner. Load it into our machine. I've been using this brayer to really nail down the stencil material, the transparency. I'm just going to jump up here and throw this onto the machine, and I will be right back. Hold that thought. All right, guys, I'm back over here. So what we need to do here is we just need to fix up our B, and we're going to get rid of the other layers, save the B alone, and cut that. So it's iniquity, but it helped me to show you another thing. Like, you know, anytime you make a mistake, it's cool to be able to learn something from it, right? So looking at our stencil, our thumbnails, excuse me. I usually like to use large thumbnails. If you look at the thumbnails right here, you can see the one we need is the letter B. If we hold if we hold Option, now on that we just get the letter B. Now we don't just want that, we want the background, and then up here is, I think, our squares. Which layer has our squares on it? This one, right? Yeah, all right. So get rid of everything but the B and that square layer. Right. So now we have 1A to get, the A is part of the square layer. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go with our marquee select tool. We're going to grab this A like this, right? We're going to right click. Oh, it's not in that option. All right, so you do Command X. Oops, got to be on the layer. All right, Command X, which is cut. Oops, Command X, which is cut. And then we go over here to edit and go in here and see Paste Special, Paste in Place. That's going to put it right where it was, but on its own layer, right? So now we're going to go in with our marquee select tool again. We want to stay on the layer that now is only squares. And we want to go in here and grab everything that has our box in it. All right. So now we're going to say Command C, which is copy. And then we want to go up to our B layer and say Paste Special, Paste in Place. Because we're basically looking for it to be in the same spot. Get rid of our A, get rid of our other boxes. Now we just have our letter B. Now we go in here and say Save As. It's only the letter B. All right. This time we're going to just save it in our HoloLens stencils. We're going to call it, we'll have it to be a JPEG. Over here you can see icons. So let's see the stuff we're working on. Then we go up here and say Sebastian stencil B. Okay. Jump back down to our friend Silhouette. Go back here. Say New. We want to go in here to our page setup. This time, the sheet that we're using is about 4 by 3 or so. But we want to jump over here for just 1 second to see the size of our letters, they are 3 inches by about 2.5. So over here we want to open this guy. One sec. Did we just save that one? No, it's inside here, right? There it is. Now, like I said, we just jump back. We see our B. Select this guy. And bring it in here, and then just hit that one. Alright, now we need this letter to be 3 inches. So I'm going to bring it down over here. that is a big. All right, that's about the size we're looking at right there. Right? So now that we've done that, we can throw our transform panel in here again. Select what we want to trace, which is just the A in the box. Right? Say trace. And then select it, then drag this guy away. Now we got that guy. We should have enough plastic there to cut that. Shouldn't be a huge problem. Oh, except does anybody else see a big problem? Forgot to fix. All right, we want the B tool. We want white. Click, shift, click, click, shift, click. The shift holds into perfectly straight lines. Annoying. Oh, it doesn't give us recent anymore. We were going to call it B. Replace. All right, head back over to Silhouette. Grab this, delete it, open. I don't know why that said copy. I hate when it does that. I'll move trace over here. Alright. Just drag this guy in here. So we can work with them. Alright. So like we were just saying, we need this letter to be pretty good size. Alright. Back up a little. One, two, maybe a little bigger. Alright, that looks good. Open up trace. Like we were just saying, trace our B. Computer is messing with me. I love when it does that. Totally makes my day. Right. Probably shouldn't have jumped around so quick. All right, there we go. So now that we got it here, we got trace, and we just drag that guy aside, and we got that guy right there. So then we're going to go to send. Send closes all of your other windows. This is what it's going to cut, like we just did on the last one. Pretty straightforward. Should have plenty of plastic in there to do that. And we just send it. All right. So while this is cutting, we're going to head back over to the other camera. So just give me 1 second. Hey, we're back. So we got all of our letters here that we need to do the pumpkin. I wish I could show them to you better. I wonder if it's better with the light lower. Maybe a little. You can kind of see them. You should be cleaner than me and not have stencil pieces everywhere. But so we have our B is in there. Got our second S here. T. I. Right. These positive pieces I'm going to keep in a pile over here. No matter what I do, I lose positive pieces. I mean, they're clear. I can't believe I can find any of them, But what happens is weeks down the road, I look on the ground, I see a stencil reflecting in the light, you know what I mean? So there is our stencil for Sebastian. Now we just got to grab the one we just ran through the cutter. see how that guy came out. Oh, it looks like he's too big. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah. The letters are about 1.5. So we're going to throw that in there. We still have enough plastic that we can cut it again. Just going to send it again. That looks good. That's what we want over here, though. Sorry, you guys. I'm going to be showing you my back, you know. Just 1 second. 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. Send. All right, gonna try that again. But what we got here looks pretty good. We've got our pumpkin right here. Pumpkins are all different. This particular pumpkin has this really yucky beet side. Now we could paint over it, and that might, you know, like hide it. But what you don't want is to use the really crappy side. You know, try to use the good side. That would be the good side. Cutter doesn't sound that good at the moment. I'm hoping it's okay. But it sounds a little bit like it's struggling. Hey, that doesn't sound good at all. No, that didn't work. No. It does look like we can make it work with a little bit more stuff. So that one did not participate as he was supposed to. All right, so it looks like we do have a little more plastic here. We just got to take away the stuff that is loose, including the, we could probably leave the other bee there. Just to make sure we got the rest of the plastic down. I think I got a little too close to the edge. That was the problem. So we want to start over by 3. All right. Okay. All right, I think we look good. Starting it. All right. All right, let's try that again. There it goes, making the noise. You guys still with me? You guys still on there? Cutter's running, just making sure everything over here is where it needs to be. Well, sounds like it's done. We good? Let's take a look. Awesome. Let's try one more thing. Okay. Okay. Oh, sometimes I can't believe I'm spending this much time trying to figure this out. Come on. Okay. Oh no. Uh. Come on, silly thing. I got in trouble with YouTube already, telling me that I had screwed up. Yikes. Yikes. Come on, silly thing. Come on. Can't get a break, man. Well, anyway, let's take a look at our bee. Size looks good. Get this guy out of there. Oh, I gotta turn this off behind me. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. So we're going to pull the stencil here. There's really only a couple of things I need to do this work, and music is one of them, so not having it is inconvenient. And the difficult part is I have 6 Mac machines. But I can't get any of them to work right now. None of them want to connect to my headphone here. And, you know, that is a pain. So the other thing I was saying we got to make sure we do is take our positive, which I was just going to leave there. And then, like, you got to take a look at this sheet to see if there's anything stuck on it. I cut a large Letterkenny stencil, and it was an awful lot of small pieces. So got to make sure you get the small pieces off, because when you go to stick the next piece of material on, those small pieces will be in the way, right? And if it doesn't stick as well as possible, that's when what just happened to us happens. It like peels up, you know? And that is a pain. Pretty much it. Cool. So now we're going to set up one more piece here. We're going to run a second stencil while we're setting up with our pumpkin. Right. So I was just saying, we're braying it out. Try to get any air that might be under it out. And just make sure we get as much of an adhesion as possible. When I'm doing this, I'm trying to not get through the glue that's on this. And of course, it goes without saying, you try not to drop it on the ground. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's like hairs and stuff stuck under this cover. And that's because I dropped it on the ground. hairs and stuff shouldn't make a huge difference, but anything that has any dimension to it, you should make sure you try to remove. All right, I'm going to throw this guy up in the stencil cutter again, and we will slide back over. Anybody interested in eBay? Oh, sorry about that, guys. All right, let's throw eBay away. Just as, oh, sorry about that. Oh, you know. All right, so back over here, we go back into design. Oops, back over here and say open. Nope, we don't need to do that. Cancel. Go up in here to our Connor stencil. So this is the next piece that we're going to do. Looks like it needs a little cleaning up. Grab everything that's white. And then go in here and grab everything that's white. That stuff looks like it's up here. Well, you know what? This stuff doesn't even matter. Say deselect. So we want to just save this guy. Actually, take a look real quick. It's kind of close together. So I think we're going to do something first. If we kill this, everything is on this layer. So marquee select tool, drag this guy. I think we'll put, before we do that, we'll just put our background back. Alright, so we can see what we're working on. Marquee select tool, grab this C, right, V, move the whole unit up here, deselect, marquee select tool, drag, grab it, select tool, move this one over here a little so we have some room. Here, so I can still see where we're going to go. Right, M. Okay, V. Alright. Deselect. Let's go back a little here. Oh, redo. I'm thinking the boxes are not big enough. Let's take a look. This is really all we have. So I think I'm going to write this one again, turn this off, paint this background again. There we go. Cancel, paint. Alright, so now we need our text tool. Now we want to write his name. Connor. Oh. C-O-N-N-O-R. So we really only need one C. One O, one N, and one R. Alright, so do our double spacing here. Right here we can hit an enter. Right, and then we can just let the whole unit come up a little. Right. Go back with our text tool, move this one back. Now we got it real small and into an area that's, we're going to be able to save some plastic. Looks like some good spacing. So now we want to engage our text. Oh, I guess we did already. Take our marquee select tool, bring it down here really quick. Oh, we forgot one pivotal thing. right click here, rasterize type. Now we're changed it to an image as opposed to text. So that'll allow us to do our stroke. We want black. Our foreground color is white, that's why it's asking us. Our marquee selection tool. Right here. Give a little room. That's kind of what I didn't do on the last one. Because that's what we're using the boxes for. Like I mentioned, the overspray. Whoops. Alright. So it's funny that this is all we need to make Otter's name, because it's C-O-N-N-O-R. Right? So I think that'll be cool. Looks good. Alright, then deselect. So now this is what we have. Save as a JPEG. We'll call it 02. Actually, let's cancel that because we forgot something again. B white. Click, shift, click. Alright. That would be that. Now we save.